H.P. Lovecraft's hyper-influential Cthulhu mythology has left a colossal imprint on fantasy fiction, with the Cthulhu deities being the blueprint for several imaginary creatures created for stories across the globe. These supreme and visceral entities within the mythos can be categorized into the Elder Gods, the Outer Gods, and the Great Old Ones. Where the malign Outer Gods and Old Ones had ruled over Earth several years prior to mankind's appearance, the benevolent Elder Gods sent them to their exiles. The Outer Gods were cast out of the confines of deep space, while the Great Old Ones fell into a death-like slumber on Earth itself. Hoping to rise once again, they began to manipulate mankind and acquired a cult-like following, with believers dedicated to bringing their rule back on Earth once again. These omnipotent entities with unexplainable powers are also part of a detailed family tree comprising Outer Gods as well as Great Old Ones. And although Cthulhu is the first being we have been exposed to, he is far from being the first of his kind. As such, today's video will be dedicated to Cthulhu and his ancestors. Before getting into the content, we would like to make a very small request to our viewers. Please subscribe to our channel, like and comment on our videos, and press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content. We would be grateful to you, and we hope to bring you the best nerdy content. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 1. Azathoth, Great-Great-Grandfather. Starting off with the Cthulhu's great-great-grandfather, Azathoth is an outer god from the Cthulhu mythos. He holds many a title, such as the Nuclear Chaos, the Cold One, the Blind Idiot God, the Deep Dark, and the Daemon Sultan. Unlike Cthulhu, he does not possess an appearance with a description that is set in stone. Instead, he is ever-changing, appearing differently to each and everyone who envisions him. While he has been described as a ginormous, sentient black hole by many, he has also been depicted as a 20-foot idol hoisted on pairs of flexible legs in Ramsey Campbell's The Insects from Shagai. In this narrative, Azathoth has a bivalvular shell that gives rise to a jointed cylinder. At the tip of the cylinders rest his polypus appendages. Meanwhile, his face has been described as bestial and mouthless with deep-set, sunken eyes. His facial frame is also enamored by glistened black hair. Within the same story, another account has described him as a pale gray shape oozing out of the corridor. This shape expands, crinkles, glistens, and shakes gelatinously, with moving particles dropping free from its body. However, every description lays great emphasis on his malign presence, considering the fact that the mere mention of his name can be horrifying to many. But being an outer god, Azathoth has his worshippers with the townsfolk of Goatswood, partaking in inhumane rituals to satisfy the god. These worshippers are alien insects who practice these rituals on living victims at Azathoth's temple. Originally hailing from the planet of Shagai, the insects relocated to Goat's Mouth following the destruction of their home planet and found their faith in Azathoth. Number 2. Azathoth's offsprings. As the starting point of the Cthulhu family tree, Azathoth has several spawns. A. Niar Lathitep. Although an outer god like Azathoth, Niar Lathitep does not reside within the deep confines of space. Instead, he lives on Earth, where he is fairly active. He often takes the guise of a human being and blends in with the crowd. In this disguise, Niar Lathitep assumes a form where he is tall, slim, and quite joyous. However, he possesses thousands of other forms as well, and neither of them are nearly as humane as this one. One look at any of those forms, and you may surely lose your sanity. He holds the title of the Crawling Chaos, which may allude to his position as someone who crawls on the surface of the earth as one of the humans. Unlike his family members, he is quite adept at speaking in human languages and strays away from using other strange alien languages. He does not have a cult dedicated to himself and instead serves the other outer gods as part of several cults. Niar Lathitep also takes care of the cult affairs in the absence of the outer gods and can be deliberately manipulative. In a way, his ability to choose when and where he wants to be sly makes him more human-like, setting him apart from his kin, who are mostly either completely malevolent or benevolent without a clear agenda. In this manner, Niar Lathitep becomes the messenger, the heart and the soul of the outer gods as he enacts their will on Earth. He is also extremely loyal to Azathoth and is quick to fulfill his wishes. However, he has his personal preferences as well, as he enjoys spreading madness over causing death and destruction. Due to his heavy involvement in human matters, it is believed that Niar Lathitep will be responsible for finally bringing forth the demise of humanity. B. The Nameless Mist. The other spawn of Azathoth, The nameless mist is also one of the several exiled outer gods. He is the progenitor of many cosmic entities, including Cthulhu's grandfather, Yogsathoth. This also makes him older than the other cosmic entities, barring his siblings and Azathoth himself. The nameless mist holds the title of Magnum Innominandum, although this is up for debate due to the lack of concrete continuity in the works revolving around Cthulhu mythos. As one of the supreme omnipotent beings, the nameless mist has omnipresence. It also boasts powers such as reality warping, space-time manipulation, incorporeality, omnipresence, and of course, immortality. C. Darkness. While the nameless mist is the progenitor of Cthulhu's grandfather, Yogsathoth, his sibling Darkness is the progenitor of Cthulhu's grandmother, Shabnagarath. Like the other folks of his kin, Darkness holds other titles such as the Great Darkness and Magnum Tenebrosum. The entity has often been alluded to as an endless void of sentient blackness. D. Yogsathoth. Azathoth has also spawned outer gods via spontaneous fission, with Yogsathoth being one of them. As a result, this entity can be described as the son of Azathoth, and he happens to be superior to the likes of the Nameless Mist, the Ultimate Gods, and Niar Lathitep. Also known as illimitable androgynous desire, Yogsathoth is the progenitor of Gizgoth and Hizilquoagimniza, while being a grandfather to Sathagawa. His habitat is a planet called Yogsathoth, which lies at the very edge of the solar system. Although he used to live with his immediate family, his cannibalistic appetite led to the departure of his folks. He later divided his androgynous self into his masculine and feminine counterparts, with Nug wearing the hat of being the masculine, while the feminine took up the name Yeb. However, there have been speculations about Yogsathoth and Yeb being the same, with the formal being nothing but a Hyperborean name for the latter. E. Gizgoth. We have previously mentioned this entity as the progeny of Yogsathoth. Gizgoth is a gargantuan mass of protoplasm that can shapeshift into a titanic cetacean if he feels like it. He is also the brother of Cthulhu, which makes him one of the Great Old Ones. This means that Gizgoth resides on Earth and rests in a death-like slumber, with his residence of choice being the deepest, darkest pits of the ocean that receives absolutely no light. However, we do not know whether he just prefers to live in the darkness for the sake of it, or if he has an aversion to light. F. Zstalshimni. Gizgoth eventually finds his mate in Zstalshimni, offspring of Econagneses. Also known as the matriarch of swarms, Zstalshimni does not belong to any faction. Number 3. Yig, the father of serpents, grand uncle. This entity was introduced as the snake god of the Central Plain tribes in H.P. Lovecraft's The Curse of Yig. He is also referred to as a shunned and feared object in central Oklahoma. In the same story, Yig, the father of serpents, is described by Lovecraft as an odd and half-anthropomorphic devil who was not 100% evil despite his malign lineage. He was extremely devoted to his children while being well-disposed toward the ones who respected him and his serpentine spawns. Although he retained his capricious nature at all times, it was during the season of the fall when he would turn abnormally ravenous, requiring others to perform specific rites and rituals by offering him corns which would subsequently drive him away. To kill snakes was taboo for those who worshipped the snake god, and if no one were to harm his wriggling progeny, they would be subjected to the curse of Yig. This malevolent curse would make the victim undergo suitable tortures up until their transformation into a spotted snake. Due to this curse, the people of Oklahoma were downright terrified to discuss the legend of Yig. He eventually finds his mate in an outer god named Yidra and becomes the father of a Yig. Number 4. Yogsathoth Grandfather. One of the more key players in the Cthulhu mythos, Yogsathoth is an outer god who is the grandfather of Cthulhu. He has also been described as a being with an ever-changing appearance, just like his ancestor Azathoth. At times he is said to have tendrils, at times he is said to possess eyes, and other times he is said to have both. However, each description of the entity has found common ground in referring to him as a mass of glowing orbs. Being an outer god, Yogsathoth has been exiled from the universe, leaving him in a position where he could not act, and yet his omniscience meant that he had the ability to witness every event taking place within space-time all at once. This led to Yogsathoth being knowledgeable of every single detail. He was apparently capable of speech as well. His cult followers comprised mortals who performed occult rituals to call upon the outer god. They would often use essential salts on deceased people and bring them back from their deaths. In one strange case, Yogsathoth had been summoned to impregnate a mortal woman. She ended up giving birth to 2 children who were half human. Number 5. Shabnagarath. Grandmother. Cthulhu finds his grandmother in the outer god Shabnagarath. She is often known as the Black Goat of the Woods with 1,000 young, and has appeared in the works of authors such as H.P. Lovecraft, Lynn Carter, Brian Lumley, August Derleth, and Ramsey Campbell. She is also one of those entities whose appearance cannot be defined, mostly because we do not get to see much of her. We only hear of her as she is called upon, or with her being referred to during incantations. Lovecraft has defined her as a perverse and malevolent deity of fertility with a cloud-like appearance in selected letters. It is also believed that she is a tentacled mass with a mouth that drips with slime and legs that are short and goat-like. The reason why she is mentioned so frequently during incantations is because of the fact that she is the most worshipped deity from Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. She is worshipped not just by the Hyperboreans, Movians, Muvians, barbaric cults, and the people of Sarnath, but also by non-human species such as the Kinyanians, the Migo, and the Yogsathoth from Yadith. It is believed that Shabnagarath may live in a separate dimension beneath the planet of Yadith, or as a dweller in Azathoth's court, which is located at the center of the universe. However, she is generally summoned to the woodlands during a new moon. Number 6. Nug Parent and Yeb. Shabnagarath's alleged offsprings with Yogsathoth are Nug and Yeb. The siblings happen to be twins who are great old ones and have spawned on Slycharire's doomed nebula. While Nug is the parent to Cthulhu, Yeb is the progenitor of Sathagawa. The twins are 10 feet in diameter and are said to look quite similar to Shabnagarath. They have their worshippers as well and are generally worshipped together due to the twins forming something similar to the yin and yang with respect to symbolism. They are also the probable creator and keeper of the garden that Yig calls home. As great old ones, Nug and Yeb have been entrusted with clearing Earth for the day their kin return to the planet. They carry out the mission using the torch of Nug and the furnace of Yeb. However, it is also believed by certain doctrines of monks that the twins have never lived on Earth. Nug acts as a god among ghouls, although this claim is up for debate due to the Sharash Ho sharing the same title. Meanwhile, Yeb leads an alien cult known as Aboth's Unclean One. Despite being malevolent in title, Nug and Yeb are one of the few great old ones alongside Shabnagarath and Yeg who are willing to aid humanity against Cthulhu's hostile firstborn Gatanathoa. Number 7. Cthulhu, Nug Spawn. The first great old one to ever be presented to us, Cthulhu made his appearance during February 1928 as he debuted in a magazine called Weird Tales. A resident in the underwater city of R'lyeh, which happens to be located beneath the Pacific Ocean, Cthulhu's physical appearance is the stereotypical octopoid figure that pops into our head when we think of the Cthulhu mythos. Being a great old one, he constantly rests in a slumber that mirrors death. However, this malignant, visceral being is enormously powerful, with some of his statues depicting him as an octopus-dragon hybrid. In these interpretations, Cthulhu has a bulbous head and stands tall at a colossal height that goes over hundreds of meters. He has a grotesque and scaly body with tentacles and rudimentary wings. Meanwhile, his arms are webbed but humanoid at the same time, with the great old ones attempting to rule over Earth once again while having telepathic abilities. They have been molding the dreams of humans and planting images of Cthulhu into their minds, prompting them to start the cult of Cthulhu. Because of Cthulhu's residential town of Arlia sank underwater, he was completely cut off from the surface world he wished to return to. However, he continued to have a faithful cult with the cult of Cthulhu alongside the Deep Ones, who are ocean-dwelling non-human creatures from the mysterious town of Innsmouth. Number 8. Sathagawa, Yeb's spawn. And finally, we have the spawn of Yeb, who is also known as the Sleeper of Nakai. One of his very first accounts describes him as a monstrous toad with a potbelly. With a body covered with short fur, he looks like a sloth and a bat at the same time. Meanwhile, he has sleepy eyelids that partially cover his globular eyes. A separate instance almost confirms the aforementioned physical appearance, except Sathagawa is described as a bat-like creature instead of toad-like. It is also added that despite being ravenous, Sathagawa is not the type to rise from his place. Instead, he will stay patient and wait for the sacrifice sent to him by his worshippers. This makes one thing very clear, and that is the fact that Sathagawa is extremely lazy. No hunger or calamity can move him from his place, at least not until his life is threatened. If anyone disturbs his slumber, he will devour the disturber. but on the occasion that the disturber has a sacrifice to offer, he will pardon them and consume the one who has been sacrificed. Following this, he will go back to sleep. There have been exceptions to this, with Sathagawa refusing the wizard Ezdegor's sacrifice and feeding the man to one of Mount Vormithidreth's denizens. It is possible that Sathagawa is capable of altering his shape to adapt to his environment. This is because when he dwelled in Cycronosh, which is now known as Saturn, he looked much different compared to his toad-like or bat-like appearance. Being of great importance, Sathagawa's will is carried out by formless and polymorphic beings that are created from black goo. These creatures are hard to dispatch due to their tremendous resilience. They can also alter their shapes to attack their targets. Their flexibility allows them to find spaces even among the tiniest of cracks, which makes them hard to avoid or spot. Once these beings attack, they crush the victim with their grasp or bite them. One of their most important jobs is to prevent Sathagawa's sanctuary from being defiled by non-believers. Marvelous verdict. H.P. Lovecraft's works revel in the fear of the cosmic unknown, with the existence of cosmic horrors that are beyond the imagination of humans. The reason we do not talk much about the powers of these cosmic entities apart from describing them as omnipotent and enormously powerful is fascinating. It is believed that they possess powers that are beyond human understanding. As such, describing them would be pointless, as we would never understand them, which in itself is a very Lovecraftian concept. With that, today's video comes to an end. What did you think of the Cthulhu family tree? Did you enjoy this video? If yes, then don't forget to like and comment on this video. Till then, goodbye and have a nice one.